laid over to the end of third reading calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 158.
Senate Bill 158 by Senator Janal, Representative Furlow, concerning continuation of the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act and in connection therewith, implementing some of the recommendations contained in the 2018 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies and making an appropriation.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 158 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I was a no vote and will be a no vote on Senate Bill 158. It is a sunset reauthorization for the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act. And many may say, and I may be asked at my public town hall meeting where a defibrillator will be present, why would you be against a bill that permits the regulation of animal care and facilities? Don't we want to take care of our pets? And my answer is yes, I do. I care about my pets as much as any of you do. So please, I can't stop you, but please don't come down here and say, well, I care about my pets, and sort of implicitly indicate that maybe the senator from El Paso County doesn't care as much about his dog as others of you do. But what is my concern about this? Well, it's a regulatory structure like any other, and it has the potential to run amok. And this particular regulatory regime and structure has run amok in ways that is almost unimaginable. It first came to my attention, and I have to say, the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act, PACFA, was not something that was on my radar screen much at all. It's something that generally is assigned to the Ag Committee. And when I was in the House, it was initially authorized, and it had a sunset. And it's under the purview of the Department of Agriculture. And we've already heard from some people today that apparently we need to pass bills to tell the Department of Agriculture what its job is. But what happened was, when I served in the House, I picked up a copy of that conservative newspaper, The Westward, in 2013, and this is to this bill because what it was about some regulations that were promulgated or proposed to be promulgated, actually, under PACFA, and could be promulgated under PACFA today. So let me read just a little bit from you. It's entitled Mandatory Life Jackets for Dogs and Kennels. Colorado could be the first. This is January 4th, 2013. How safe are doggy pools in Colorado pet care centers? Apparently dangerous enough that the state's Department of Agriculture is now considering rules to mandate life jackets for dogs in the state's boarding kennels and daycare facilities. And officials say that if they ultimately go forward with this plan, Colorado would probably want to be one of the first states to do this. I like it when Colorado is a leading state in things. Now, just to make sure everyone understands I'm referring to this bill, at that time, PACFA permitted these regulations, and if it reauthorized, it will continue to permit these regulations. Now, I have to say that because of this Westward article, the conservative anti-regulatory Westward magazine, newspaper, they were able to turn this around. And we don't have doggy life preservers. But let me tell you what was being considered. Officials from the Pet Animal Care Facilities Act program, a branch of the state's Department of Agriculture, emphasize that it's just a proposal and nothing is finalized. The idea of requiring canine flotation devices was inspired by the recent tragic drowning incidents, says Kate Anderson, a veterinarian and program manager for PACFA. What we're talking about, this is a quote, what we're talking about is what ways can we protect dogs in pools. Having a flotation device on the dog, that's one option. Each and every one of those is a tragic accident. I agree with that it's a very sad thing for the pet owner. And I really encourage pet owners who leave their pets at a facility to take a good hard look at that facility. And if there's a doggy pool, it's a pool that...
Would the good senator from El Paso County please try to stay to the constraints of Senate Bill 158? I vividly remember, as you do, and several members who were in the House, the slideshow with then Representative Norberg, or a past time, but I would hope that you could help talk to the merits of this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, what this bill would allow is the sorts of things that were suggested in 2013, and they haven't gone away. There's a suggestion, and Mr. President, in order to kind of cut to the chase, there's a suggestion here that we have doggy lifeguards as an idea. Now, my efforts in the past to restrict the ability to have doggy life preservers and doggy lifeguards was rebuffed. It turns out that when given regulatory powers, government apparently wishes to have unbridled regulatory powers, and PACFA is one of those. And while those regulations did not become the rule then, just imagine what could happen. And it was because of doggy daycare owners saying, what's the cost? But what if under the PACFA program they wanted to promulgate regulations that would say, if you're offered doggy life preservers that are in conformance with the doggy life preserver requirements, you must accept those doggy life preservers. And you must train your employees on how to use the doggy life preservers. You say, oh, don't be absurd. You're just being absurd, Senator Gardner. No, I'm not. The fact that it was suggested at all to start with is what is wrong with these regulatory schemes. And we have to draw the line someplace. And I appreciate that the senator from Fort Collins, the good senator from Fort Collins, is carrying this sunset reauthorization. But I wager that no one from DORA or the Department of Agriculture said, you know, we had this controversy about doggy life preservers and doggy lifeguards, and what we really need to do is limit our authority so the public could have some confidence that we're going to be reasonable regulators. Time after time, when people come down and assert that they are not supporting a bill because of excessive regulation or the ability to excessively regulate, someone will come down and say, we have the smartest people working on this. We're going to have an advisory committee of the smartest people in the room. Well, I suggest to you that one of the smartest people in the room decided doggy life preservers and doggy lifeguards was a really good use of regulatory power by the state, and that in order to accomplish this, they would publish a set of regulations, they would begin to take public comment on the regulations. Oh, I would have loved to have been at that public comment session. But regulator and reasonable are two words that are seldom found in the same sentence. Members, whether it be mandates for defibrillators or a regulatory scheme that it permits a mandate for doggy life preservers, I don't know what you do for kitty cats, is a step too far for government. It is time to say no. And I ask you to say no to Senate Bill 158. Pet owners themselves are well equipped to decide what is right for their pet. We don't let people decide what's right for their children in this state anymore, but at least we ought to let them decide what's best for their pet. I ask for a no vote.
Further discussion. Senator Janot.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the senator that's a good country lawyer from El Paso County. I really you have great, interesting comments on regulations that don't exist. Doggy life preservers, doggy lifeguards do not exist at this moment in regulation. Perhaps that may spark some interest, I'm not sure. But I do want to clarify that I think all of you had on your desk this photo this morning, and I found it quite interesting. I think this might be even the good senator from El Paso County's dog, a golden retriever. He had on a blow-up neck flotation device with actually some scuba gear and some flippers next to a little kiddie pool, okay? And boy, maybe we ought to have regulations because things have changed. I mean, really, this is a blow-up device. And let me show you what we have now for the newest and greatest doggy life preservers that are available for cats, for dogs. I mean, in different colors. They can pretend they're sharks or dolphins or anything. It comes in pink polka dot, whatever you wish. But if we have regulations on this, then the good senator from El Paso County, you really need to update the life preserver that you have for your golden retriever, because that's really, the technology has totally changed, and maybe he would like to have one of these newer ones. So I just want to say that these life preservers are there for cats as well, and for pigs. I've seen them for all sorts of animals. And I just want to say that, you know, PACFA, or the Pet Animal Care Facilities Act, has been around since 1995, and it has really provided consumer protection and pet protection. And we might want to think of this in regulation. I'm not sure. I hadn't thought of it before you brought it up, but I think the safety and the welfare of our pets is really important. And if you really love your dog, you might want to update that life preserver if you use that. So anyways, I just hope you all realize the importance of the Pet Facilities Act and will support it. Thank you.
Members, I know the hour is getting later, and you all may divulge to a different level, but let's stay to the Pet Animal Care Act and Facilities Act. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a kind of a question for one of the previous speakers. The notion of doggy lifeguards. I was unclear. Are the doggy lifeguards themselves doggies or humans, and is that a potential jobs program that we could build into this legislation in the future, Senator? Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. In all seriousness, I think we actually don't do a great job of much of this regulation, and it seems well-intentioned, but Emily and I had a really frustrating experience with a pet care facility this summer. We'd taken our annual road trip in the month of July, and Emily gets a text about 11:30 at night from someone in the neighborhood saying, "Hey, it looks like your cat was out, and someone has posted on the neighborhood app, and I think that's your cat. And they've turned it into this pet care facility, concerned about whose cat it was, and posted about it." And we thought, hey, not a big deal. The cat's actually, it's sort of our cat, but it's not really our cat. The cat showed up a couple of days. My kids put out a couple of scraps for it, thinking it was something fun to play with, and the cat never left. And I'm deathly allergic to cats, which is why I think we need EpiPens in all public places as well. deathly allergic to cats, and so the cat is not allowed in the house. It's not allowed, I mean, anywhere near inside the house, but I said, you can't, I mean, obviously the cat can go wherever it wants outside, and you guys can feed it. Well, the cat has stayed around for about 2 months. We never put a collar on it. We said we don't know if this is someone else's cat. We didn't put a collar on it. Obviously, we didn't take it to the vet. We just kind of lived. And it lived around the house and came by every now and then. So they turn it in, and at 11:30 at night, my wife is getting a call saying, "Is this your cat? What do we need to do about it?" So it's a 24-hour pet care facility. Didn't know there was such a thing until this point. And they can't release our cat to us or to anybody else because they say by regulation we can't show ownership. And this is the argument they were making to us. And so we go back and forth for several hours. We ended up getting billed $180, $20 a day for the 9 days we continued to be gone. Had to pay for someone else's cat, I assume, to get shots and to get fixed just so it could be released back to us for a cat that we had said, it's not even allowed in the house and I'm deathly allergic to it and we're not going to license it. All because some well-meaning regulator has determined who can and can't check pets in and out of a pet care facility. Now, maybe that sounds like it makes sense to somebody. Maybe that sounds like it's good. What are your other options? Will you just leave it there? Do I just put it back on this small business and say, hey, you guys take care of it, great, congratulations, you just got yourself a new alley cat? I couldn't do that in good conscience and say, hey, you guys have just done a good deed, someone have brought the cat in. There are legitimate concerns about this, and I know sometimes we make a joke about some of the stuff we do here, but how are we making people's lives better off? How are we making their life better off as a small business by telling them what they can and can't do, who they can release a pet to? They wouldn't even release the cat to one of our friends. We actually had to show up and show pictures of our kids with the cat before they would even release it to us. If we didn't, they're just keeping this cat. Colleagues, I mean, I know sometimes it becomes a laughing matter, but bad regulation, poor thinking on how we do things makes people's lives worse off. It doesn't help our small businesses, it doesn't help our families, and it sure didn't help my checkbook when I had to make a decision between that $180 and my 3 girls. And whether or not I actually would honor the good faith effort by the pet care facility to watch our cat after someone had turned it in. So, again, in all seriousness, regulation does harm people. It does, in many cases, make our lives more challenging and not better off. And so I think a more serious discussion about the challenges of regulation are probably in order.
Further discussion. Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the grounding remarks of my friend and colleague from El Paso County, because all joking aside, the very point of this is regulation runs amok. And that great story from my friend and colleague from El Paso County is a perfect example of that. Doggy life preservers is humorous and funny, and it turns out the technology is just advancing faster than Bitcoin. But it then causes one to wonder, well, if that's so, would PACFA, if they can think about the regulations, will they do the regulations one day, and will they a couple of years later say you need new doggy life preservers, small business, to be with the cutting edge of the technology? And my good friend and colleague from Centennial jokingly, I think jokingly, said, well, is this another job for doggies to be doggy lifeguards? But actually, there's going to be some sort of certification and some question about whether RIN 1010 can stand there on the side of the pool and rescue the others. This is the sort of thing that when it becomes a laughing matter then causes us to come back to other regulatory structures and schemes and say we need to start somewhere. I mean, after all, my friend and colleague from Fort Collins suggests when she shows the new preservers and the latest technology and everything else, I know it's in the spirit of things, but the problem is if someone can think it in jest, someone can think it seriously. And what my constituents say to me at my town hall meetings, in jest some days, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I've had to say, don't laugh, it's been proposed. Don't laugh, members, about this. It was proposed. And it was proposed to make Colorado the leading cutting-edge state. It's a reason why we should say no. It's a reason why my vote, while I suspect will not be on the winning side, it will not be on the prevailing side, it will be a clear message. It will be a clear message to this department, and I hope to every other department, that we in the General Assembly are not going to tolerate unreasonable regulations of any sort. I urge a no vote.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 158? Seeing none, the question before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 158 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Lundin, Gardner, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Minority Leader, Hill, Smallwood. With a vote of 27 ayes, 8 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 158 is passed. Co-sponsor.